Hey Sarah, this is Virginia. Um, I really wanted to make a video for you because, um, oh, as you can see, I still have my tree up. I just don't have the strength to take it down yet. Um, I used to work in a casino from the time I was 21 until I was 29, and I dealt 21 roulette. And when you were talking, you brought back so many memories. Now, I'm 51 now, so that was 30 years ago. And back then, um, the casinos were quite different. But the cage was still the cage, and, you know, the casino was still the casino. And I have something I wanted to share with you that you will appreciate, and I hope you find funny. Of course, this is probably something that was marked against me in the heavenly book, but you know, you can just take so much from these people that you have to deal with. And when you mix alcohol and money together, which is what casinos do, you get a lot of, well, you know. So this one particular incident, I was dealing to a lady. Now, I hope you know the difference between chips and checks, because the checks, that's what you call the chips that are on blackjack tables and poker tables, because you can take those chips, which are called checks, and take them to the cage and cash them in for money. Now, the colorful chips that you find on the roulette wheel are chips, okay? And you take the chips from a roulette table and you cash them in right there at the roulette table for checks. And you take the checks to the cage and the cage cashes them out. So, this one particular incident, this lady was sitting there and winning a ton of chips. And this was back in the day before I learned how to convert those chips to get rid of people, but that's another story. And she just had tons, and she was snotty and drunk and mean, and I could just, you know, I just didn't like her. She was mean. And winning and winning and winning. And she decides that she's going to go cash out, and proceeded to put these chips in her purse. Now, if she takes these chips to the cage, which was, by the way, right smack dab in front of me, and I knew all the girls in the cage, the girls in the cage were going to tell her she's got to take those chips back to the roulette table and cash them in for checks. I let that poor woman feel her purse with all those chips. Now, under any other normal circumstances, I would have said, ma'am, you can't take those off the table. Let me, you know, cash you out. But I let her take them all. And I looked up at the gal in the cage, who, like I said, I knew. And she let this lady take all the chips out of her purse and stack them up nice and neatly in the little tray that you talk about. And after she proceeded to dig them all out of her purse and they were all stacked nice and pretty, the girl in the cage goes, ma'am, I'm sorry, you're going to take those back to the roulette wheel. They're so bad. You know, and I got stories upon stories upon stories. I have been cussed at. You know, when I was dealing cards, I've had security guards standing on both sides of me, both sides of the person on the other side of me, you know, for one last hand. Oh my gosh, drinks thrown at me, cards thrown at me, money thrown at me. Because back then, there were no women in the pit. And it was all men, and if you couldn't take it, then you didn't belong there. So you had to really be tough. And there was times where I was called everything in the book. And that was in my younger days when I was much thinner and I looked really nice. But even being young and thin and, you know, thinking I was hot and sexy back then, in a casino, you're still going to get the jerks. You know, the money and the alcohol. and you just, you know, I hate to say you got to blow it off, but you do. You got to work through it. And he was just a sad, sad person. And you have to put yourself in those kind of situations where you almost have to feel sorry for those kind of people. I was so angry that I would have to work on Thanksgiving or Christmas or something dealing cards to these people until it finally dawned on me that they had no family, that they had no love in their life, that they had no hope. And I was all there was to them for that moment in that day. So I kind of changed my attitude when I was dealing, but I hated it. It was a very degrading job. So I learned how to do nails and opened up my salon. So anyhow, I hope you remember that little old lady bringing all those chips to your window the next time someone acts mean to you. Sometimes you get little tiny pieces of revenge in there. Cheer up, girl. You're gorgeous, and I enjoy your videos, so keep them coming. Bye.